Welcome to another episode of TAAP. I'm Chad,
I'm Michael.
and today we're going to look at what goes in the pew pew. We're going to look at some freedom pellets and see what different kinds there are out there based on what you're running them through and what they might or might not be good for.
If you think a pew pew is expensive,
Ammo's-
freedom pellets are really expensive.
Yeah, you can blow through what your pew pew costs you real quick with freedom pellets.
Oh yeah.
So we do have a selection. This isn't an end-all be-all selection. It's just kind of what we could put together on the fly, and a decent representation of what's out there, and I think what most people are somewhat familiar with. We've got an oddball or two in there, maybe.
Yeah. I know we have at least one oddball.
Yeah, we do have at least one oddball. So let's take a look at some freedom pellets here and go through them, talk about what they are and what they might or might not be good for.
All right, so kind of looking at it here, they're kind of organized by size here. So this side over here is going to be your, of course, shotgun, bigger rounds. These are going to be mostly your carbine or pistol rounds, with the exception of this little guy here.
Yeah, that's kind of the all-purpose. You can put that in a pistol, you can put that in a rifle, and that's the little 22 long rifle.
Yep, so this is a little 22 long rifle. I'm gonna see that.
It's small and hard to see.
That's tiny.
Tiny but still deadly.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna try and stand it up. See, there you go. See how small that is? I mean, look at all the other things here compared to anything. That's kind of a varmint round. It's a plinking round. It's a good training round.
Yeah, to me, that's really the best thing that is for. Being that neither of us live out in the country and are shooting varmints off of our property, is if you just want to go plinking and have fun and not spend a lot of money because 22s are cheap.
Yep.
Of all of these, 22s are by far the cheapest.
Right.
Or if you have someone that's new to firearms and you want to get them used to it, that's a great training round, great for getting them used to either holding a pistol and firing, or holding a rifle and firing it.
Yep.
It's kind of that great entry round that's cheap to buy.
Low recoil, so it's really good. So, and then next down on our list is going to be, this is a
380? No, that should be 380 auto.
380? No, that is a little 380 auto.
Yep, the anemic 9mm.
Yeah. So these three rounds, right where my fingers are, you have a 380, 38 special, and 9mm. These are all the same diameter rounds, within really close.
Yeah.
They're pretty much the same round with the exception of how much powder is packed in there and what they go into. That does not mean that you should be using these interchangeably.
No. Do not stick a 380 in a 9mm or vice versa.
Yeah, don't do that. But 380, what do I use for a 380? What do you use for a 380? You have no use for a 380.
I have zero use for a 380. It's, to me, the only time I would carry a 380 is if I wanted something very compact.
Yep, and that's what I carry. I carry summer carry. I carry a little 380.
See, I won't even carry a 380 summer.
It's small.
Yeah, I know. I fired your 380s, and they're very small. But to me, anymore, you can get a 9mm that isn't a whole lot bigger than a 380 and pack a lot more punch.
Yeah.
Really, these two here are almost identical in every way, shape, and form, with the exception of their powder load. And if you, let's take that 38 out of the middle for a second.
Okay.
You want to grab that? If you put them next to each other, a little bit longer, but holds a good deal more powder, and you get better ballistics out of it.
Yeah.
I will tell you, for the money, unless you really don't want to carry a 9mm for some reason, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because the 380 can kick just as much as a 9mm, but doesn't travel as fast, doesn't hit as hard, and really that's just because of the size, not because it's actually that stout of a round. But
right.
If it came down to it, I would recommend not getting a 380. There was a point in time where 380 looked like it could be a decent round.
Yeah.
But it's kind of obsolete anymore in my mind.
I can see where you're going with it, but I think because of its size, I think a lot of females like to carry a little 380. I think a lighter weapon gun for them. 9 millimeters could be a little bit, but they're getting really working on those 9 millimeters.
Well,
So I
and
can see that.
I know there was a point where they hadn't gotten down to the micro nines that are really, really
Right.
small. So if you wanted something smaller and still be able to defend yourself, you went with a 380.
Yeah.
But like I said, with the size that they're scaling the 9 millimeters down to, there really isn't much difference in size between a 9 millimeter and a 380 when you get down to the micro nines.
Yeah. And then you look at the one here in the middle, this little long boy. This is a 38 special. That's going to be. There are some pistols that shoot like a 38 special or 357. That's going to be. I've got I got a carbine rifle. I've got a. It's a lever action that shoots this little thing. It shoots this in 357.
Right. And you'll see that a lot where most firearms that shoot a 38 special are interchangeable with a 357.
Right. Not all guns. Not all. If you have a 38 special gun, you want to shoot 38 special loads. If you have a 357, then you can shoot 38 loads
Right.
out of it. So this is going to be kind of a revolver round that you're gonna. That's going to be a revolver. So that's going to be a kind of a different animal than
Right.
some of these
Yeah,
other ones.
I don't think that there are any semi-automatics that I know of as far as pistols that. Well, is it Ruger that has a
does.
semi-auto 357 that you can put 38s in? But outside of that, it's typically when you hear 357 or 38 special, most people think it's going to be a revolver.
Right. And then
And that's what the police used to carry back in the 70s.
Yep. And then when you go back down here to the 9 millimeter, I think that's probably the most versatile round.
And
I'm going to
definitely
move that
most
down
common.
there. That is probably that's what you're going to see the most of. And then, and if you don't know what a 9 millimeter is, we can't help you.
No.
You're beyond help. No.
Diameter is 9 millimeters.
Yeah. Then you have the little fatter one up here, and this is a 40
Smith &
caliber.
Wesson 40, yep.
Yep.
And that was developed because at the time the 9 millimeter didn't have the stopping power, but they wanted to be able to carry capacity more than a 45, which is right next to that.
Right. So now I like the 40.
I do too.
I think it's a pretty nice round.
I carry a 40 often.
There was also the same diameter as a 40 is also a 10 millimeter. I don't
Now,
have
10,
one.
10 millimeter is just slightly bigger.
It's the difference between a 38 and a 9 millimeter.
Yeah,
it's almost the same round.
but you don't want to put them in each other.
You never want to put any of these rounds in each other unless you know exactly what you're doing and how to do it. And I still don't recommend doing it.
And the exception to that would be, and we'll talk about another one here in a minute, but the exception with what we've talked about so far is if you have a 357, you can put a 38 special in it.
Correct.
But outside of things like that, where it's a known, you can do this with this,
Right.
don't do it. I've seen what happens when someone put a 9 millimeter into a 40 caliber and managed to successfully fire it.
Oh,
It wasn't pretty.
yeah. It won't be.
No.
And then the next one up that we have from the 40 is actually one of my favorite rounds.
I love that round. It's
It's slow. It's fat. It reminds me a lot of me.
slow, fat, and packs a punch.
Yep. That's a 45 caliber. That's going to be fired in your 1911s.
Yep, 1911s. I think they got some lever actions out there that you can load with
There's
45s.
a few.
But
There's a couple
that's-
carbines that have it too.
Yeah.
So
Well, Tommy gun fired that.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. That is true. It's a really good round. It has a lot of stopping power. The problem is you get 100 yards out and you just swat it out of the air.
Right. Yeah, it's got a lot of stopping power. It's just not going to get there as fast as everything else. But yeah, if you get hit by that, you're going to damn well know you got hit by that.
Yep. So and those are going to be kind of our pistol rounds that we're working with. So I'm going to kind of scoot these off over here a little bit, just so you have them there. And then this is the big boy, or the big small boy.
The smallest of the big boys, and that is the 223
Yep.
/556, which doesn't mean that they're exactly the same.
No. So if you have a firearm that is, if the barrel is stamped 223, you can shoot
223.
223. If your barrel is stamped at
Either 223
5.56,
slash 5.56 or just 5.56.
you can shoot 5.56 or 223. It's almost the exact same round. The difference between the two is one's just a little hotter than the other. The 5.56 is a little hotter than the 223.
The rounds are exactly the same size, so technically if your barrel is stamped 223, you can take something that is stamped 5.56, which I don't remember which one this is that we grabbed, whether it says 5.56 or 223.
This is a 223 because I don't have any 5.56.
Okay, I have the 5.56. But if we were to put one next to the other, externally zero difference.
Right.
But if you have a 223 stamped barrel and you put a 5.56 in it, you can successfully fire it.
Yes.
Until you can't.
Right.
And when you can't, it goes boom.
You might get lucky, and you might blow a barrel, and you might get hurt really bad. So I don't recommend it.
My rule of thumb is if it's stamped 223, that is the only thing that goes in it.
Yep.
Which is why my ARs, I make sure I get barrels that are 223 slash 5.56.
Yep,
That way I don't
do the
have to
same.
worry about it.
I do the same. So, and that is the 223. Now, just so you know, this is the AR-15 round. That is what that's famous for.
That what the military uses in the M4, in the M16s.
Yep.
It's all the same round. They use those in the SODs too, I believe.
They do. Now, this particular round is still a varmint weapon. This would be good for shooting small coyotes, something like that.
Yeah, that I wouldn't go any larger as far as varmints or wild animals than coyote, probably.
Yeah. And the reason the military uses this round is not because it can kill people. They carry this round and they use this round because if they injure someone on the other side, then every person that they can remove off the battlefield can also potentially remove 2 more people because they have to get those people out. So it's a numbers game. So this isn't really designed to kill. It can.
It definitely. Well, I wouldn't say it isn't designed to kill. It's one of those, because if you get hit by that in the chest, the other thing they're going to do is once they enter, they're going to start tumbling.
Yeah.
Which is going to cause nasty wound cavities, which might not kill you right away, but it'll incapacitate, which again, then you get to, okay, now we need 2 to 4 people to remove this person back to safety when we withdraw, or to get them back to a medical tent. As far as rifles go, that is by far the most common rifle round anymore, I would say.
I agree. And then if you look at his, a little bit bigger here, this is a 7.6239. 7.6329.
Yeah.
7.6329.
No, 7.6239.
Is this 7.62?
Yep, 7.62. It's normally referred to as just 7.62.
Yeah, 7.62. It's a 3.9. It's an AK round.
Yep, it's essentially the Soviet counterpart.
Yep. So AR AK. Now the bullet on the AK round is a lot bigger. It's a lot fatter. It has a lot more meat to it. But it's just a tad bit. It's fatter but shorter. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're looking at those two. If I were in a situation where I had to hunt bigger targets, I would say even human size, I almost want to say the AK round is a little bit better.
See, I'm the opposite. I would take the AR for something like that, even just because the AR is going to fire flatter. Generally speaking, the AR is more accurate.
Those AKs can get through a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Though. But the AR is the 5.56 is also more plentiful.
That is true. So and see, this is where we don't always see eye to eye on our rounds either.
No, we don't.
And that's okay because there's plenty enough for everybody.
There's enough to go around.
Right.
Believe me, between the two of us, there is more than enough to go around.
Yep. But I do like the AK round. That's one of my favorites here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to kick this one out of bed for eating crackers, but yeah. And then what's this one here?
That one is that's made to go the distance. If you're wanting to reach out and touch someone, of everything that we have here, that is probably the best one to really, really reaching out and touching someone. That is the 6.5 Creedmoor.
And if you look at it, it's a very long bullet. You can see even compared to these guys, it's a big, fat load, long, skinny bullet. that is designed to go far.
Yeah, that's designed to go far and travel flat because you've got that skinny bullet that's not weighting it down, and the ballistics coefficient on those and what they do once they impact target is ridiculous.
Right. Now that is your long range weapon that you like.
Yes.
That is your round that you favor.
As far, well, for the purpose of it, for reaching out to touch someone that's
Okay.
a long distance away, because you can use a lot of other rounds that we don't have here. One which we do, 308 will go pretty good as far as distance.
Yep. And I'll move the 308 right over next to it because these are the two that also get compared quite a bit.
The 300 Win Mag will really reach out. And
Yep.
that kicks like a mule, though. And
I don't have one of
no,
those.
I don't
so-
either. And the 300 Win Mag is also a bigger, heavier bullet, so you have to fire that in more of an arc. It's not going to fly as flat as the 308.
Right. If you notice, these two are really very similar. They're
308's a little more, a bit fatter. The Creedmoor is just a touch longer.
right. Now this is a 308, but it's also called 76252 51
5.1.
51.
I just call them 308. So
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, and this is the opposite of the 223. So if you have a barrel that's a 308, you can shoot the 762 rounds.
right.
That's where it gets confusing. So 308 is heavier than a 762, but a 5.56 is heavier than a 223.
Right.
Know what you're doing before you do this. But this is my preferred long range.
Okay.
This
Now-
might be able to reach a little bit further.
Oh, it'll reach
but-
a lot farther.
I know, but I mean, then I've got to chase something down or go. I'm gonna wait till they get a little closer. I'm gonna use this, whether it's an animal or whatever it's gonna be.
Now, the thing I will say is if you're using this for hunting, this can go to deer size
Okay.
comfortably. There have been stories of people taking down moose or elk with that. You have to have a really good shot to do that
Right.
because it isn't a big, heavy bullet. Your 308 is capable of taking down bigger game.
Correct. That's
So-
why I like it. It's more versatile for me, for what I do.
See, I like the 6.5 Creedmoor because if I am in a situation where I'm defending myself, I can normally reach out farther than most other people can reach out to me.
Yeah, yeah. And then now we're gonna get into the oddball.
Yep,
We
we've got
told you
it.
there's one.
We've got a good oddball one here.
This is
And-
the oddball.
And let's pause for a minute. If someone knows what that is and what you fire it out of, go ahead and put it down in the comments, and we'll see if you're right.
And I'm not going to say it yet. So, but if you look at it, it's just a little bit beefier than both of these
Yep.
two.
Yeah, a little bit fatter, a little bit longer,
Yep, a little bit bigger.
and that is also a very historic round.
It is. It's an older style round. It's a good round.
Mm-hmm.
The pew pew, the firearm that you shoot that from. Let me put it this way. I've gone to the range for that with that. I've fired one round.
You know when you fire it.
Everybody stops off the range and looks and says, "What the heck was that?" It's noticeable. It's
Yeah.
a noticeable round.
Well, and I think with that, the reason why it's not a more popular round, because it's a very good round,
It is.
but the reason it's not more popular is because there are very few things that are made that you fire it out of.
Yeah, and I have one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, I have one of them, and it's kind of a specialty one.
Yeah, you don't take that out very often
Right.
when we go out.
As far as the AK, this can be fired in AK-47 and SKSs, which are nice because it's a round. This one,
I only know
only
of
have-
one thing that you can be fired out of.
Yep, and I have it, and I love it. It's my favorite. You know what it is,
Yes,
right?
I do.
All right, what is
I knew it as soon as we put it out there.
what is she?
That is fired out of the Mosin Nagant, and
Yep.
I forget the numbering on it. What is it?
762 times 54
76254.
R.
You got that? Gotta have that R in there.
That is, it's a Mazenagit.
Mosin Nagant.
Mosin Nagant. I say Mazenagit. I'm not Russian, so I don't care.
That is essentially the standard issue rifle that was issued to the Russian soldiers during World War II.
Yep. So that is why I like that round. That's where we go into a little history, and I like the
and
history.
so do I. So do I. It's yeah, the Mosin Nagant, that had tremendous casualty rates for the Germans, because a lot of the Russians that were firing that lived out in the countryside, and that's what they hunted with.
And they did that because if anybody got a hold of their rounds, they couldn't use it in against them.
And Germans had nothing that could fire that weapon or that round. Only way Germans could use it is if they confiscated Mosin Nagants, which really the Germans didn't like because of the way that they operated.
Right.
They were bolt action. Their bolts were set up a little bit different than everyone else had.
Yep.
So it just felt cumbersome and clunky. And even with yours, if you go to run it and you don't realize that it's a Mosin Nagant and a little bit different, it can feel clunky and cumbersome.
Yep.
And
if you don't know what you're shooting and if you've never shot one, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've never heard one shot at the range, when you hear it go off, you do stop for a moment.
Yeah.
So.
Now the other thing I'll say about that is it's a damn accurate round.
Yeah, it's actually out of here. It would be my favorite round if it wasn't so, one trick pony.
Yeah.
So, and then next to it.
Well, before we go into that, one trick pony. I want to back up a couple here, because one of my favorites is the 6.5 Creedmoor, which again it's kind of one trick ponyish and it's expensive. 6.5 Creedmoor is not a cheap round to fire, which is why I don't fire it as much as I'd like to.
Right.
But the interesting thing about that is the U.S. military is moving into that, which hopefully is going to get it produced a lot more and make it cheaper. I've seen stories where they're looking at their next generation of squad automatic rifles, the SAWs essentially, are going to be chambered for that. I know that they have I want to say it's through Barrett, a platform where you can remove the barrel and you can go from 6.5 Creedmoor to 338 Lapua all the way up to the third barrel is the 50 BMG. The big old 50 cal, which we don't have because neither of us have one, so we don't have a need for it.
Right.
But yeah, that 6.5 Creedmoor, hopefully it's going to get a little bit more use, get a little bit more love from the U.S. military and make it cheaper for me to buy it and fire it.
You only hope.
Yes.
You only hope. And then last on the list here.
Hopefully most people are familiar with that as well.
Yep. If you don't know what that is, we got some problems. Now that's a 12 gauge shotgun shell.
And that one is a slug.
This one, it's a slug. It's that's a big boy.
Mm-hmm.
Now shotguns come in 410 and then all kinds of different ones.
410, 20, 12, 10 are the most common.
Yeah, I think 12 is
12 is the most common.
The most common. That's the most widely used you're going to find. Now this one's also a 2.5. 2 3/4.
2 3/4, yeah.
Yep.
And most shells are going to come in 2 3/4 or 3 inch. Again, it goes back to look at what your shotgun is chambered for, because if it is chambered for 3 inch or for 2 3/4, you do not want to put a 3-inch shell in there.
Right.
You will have, if nothing else, very big issues with it ejecting.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing I like about shotgun rounds is they're versatile.
Yeah.
You've got you can go anything from something that shoots rock salt or less than lethal beanbags to birdshot to buckshot to slugs. So what you can put in a shotgun is only really limited by your imagination and
what you want to load.
Yeah. And because there's a shout out to another channel that I watch a lot, Deflator Mouse. They are famous for people machining slugs and sending them to them, and then they'll put them into a 12 gauge and fire them off. He'll weigh them out and figure out what type of powder he wants to put in and how much, and they'll pack everything and test them out. And there's some crazy things I've seen them shoot.
And rounds get kind of special. Here's the thing, and here's what I would tell everybody to do it. Find something you're comfortable with, find something you like, and go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I like
I like one of each.
I like specialty weapons, and I like they're all here because I like them all. My problem with shotgun shells, it's always been my problem with shotgun shells.
They're heavy.
Too versatile.
Okay.
When is too much? I mean,
And that's why, unless I typically have two types of shells for my shotgun.
yeah,
I've got bird shot for when I'm going hunting,
right.
and I've got buckshot for when I'm shooting something that's not hunting.
Well, I mean, let's look at it though. You have bird shot.
Mm-hmm.
You have there's actually a couple of different bird
Right.
shot,
Oh yeah, you can go different sizes of bird shot that
Right.
determine how big the spread gets
and there's like
what
three
you
or
want to use
four
it
different
for.
ones of those. You
Oh,
have,
there's probably more than that.
I'm saying on average,
Yeah.
there's
Most people will typically use like a 4-shot for larger birds like pheasant,
Yeah.
and then a 6 or a 7-shot for smaller birds like quail or dove.
Right. And there, so it comes all in there. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say on average, if you're just getting one of each, you're going to have about 4 of those. Buckshot.
Well, I would say for the hunting rounds you'd have 2. You'd probably want a 4-shot and either a 6.5 or a 7-shot.
Well, you've got 4-shot, 6-shot, 8-shot,
Right,
buckshot.
But as far as the hunting rounds, the birdshot rounds,
I know, but I'm talking about just having
just how
rounds
many
just to if you decide that hey, I want all the options.
Okay.
You're gonna have way too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
they-
have boxes of shotgun shells
Mm-hmm.
for days.
Well, and not only that, there's probably 10, 15, 20 different less than lethal type loads out there. You can get them where it's just a big ball that isn't going to penetrate. It's just going to hit and hurt real bad. You can get them loaded with bean bags.
Yeah.
You can get them loaded with different. I've seen one loaded with different like bolo rounds where they're supposed to go and wrap someone up and.
Well,
and
the bolo rounds are used for drones now. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Friggin' A. Yeah, they're shooting these little bolo rounds at drones, and it's wrapping around and
Taking them
crashing.
down?
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, that's the one thing with shotguns is it's not something where you're going to go, I'm going to go get every type because, well, you're going to be broke real quick because there are
Yeah.
so many of them. Now, at the same time, though, that is really kind of the beauty of a shotgun, too, where, especially if you've got a shotgun that's not rifled,
Right.
it's essentially a really small cannon, and if you have to, you can load damn near anything into that and shoot it out.
I agree. I mean, it's too versatile. This is a slug.
I have seen candy shot out of it before.
You can't afford a flamethrower. They have dragon's breath
Yep.
that you could shoot out of it. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Rock salt, less than lethal, beanbag, everything. I mean, come on, people.
But no, for me, I'll take the 2 types of bird shot and the buckshot for my shotgun, and that's all I'll take. I'm sure at some point we'll go out and we'll get some specialty rounds and fire them off just to see what they do, but for general purpose, that's what I take for a shotgun, is those 3.
I like slug. I prefer slug to buckshot, and then I do like a little pepper in my rotation there.
Yeah. So is there a reason you prefer slug to bullshot to buckshot?
Yeah, 1 bullet, 1 round. Less drywall to repair if you have to shoot it in the house.
See, I think just the opposite. and not that there's less. I think with buckshot there's less drywall to repair.
Really?
Yep. Here's why. Buckshot typically is going to lose most of its momentum by the time it exits.
That's true.
That's not. That's going to go through what you shoot, the wall behind it, and potentially a wall or 2 behind it.
Yeah, but how many? If you're shooting double-aught buck, how many balls do you have?
What I have, well, most of them will either have 8 or 9.
Right. So if they hit something and they spread out from there because of the body, or hitting something, you could have a hole here, a hole here, a hole here, a hole here.
Right.
I just have 1.
Yeah. But here's the other beauty of buckshot is, like I said, typically it's going to lose its momentum by the time it exits the target.
Yeah.
So it's probably not going to put a hole in the wall. And
This is hollow point.
yeah, that's still going to go through someone and put a hole in the wall behind them. But here's the other beauty of it is, I remember going to college and patching walls in college. Little toothpaste and a coat of paint, can't even tell. And that's about what it would be with a hole from some double-aught buckshot. But yeah, that's...
So we differ on this little buddy
Yes,
here.
we do.
I think in the future that might be a.
I think we're going to be buying some drywall and some targets and seeing what type of damage we can do.
I think that might be a test. We're going to see who's right and who's wrong and what's better.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'm
Little
good.
science on the channel.
I like that.
All right.
I'm all for a good little
Science project.
little science project and see how that goes. All right, cool. We got something more to do then.
Yeah, gives us another idea. If you've got any ideas, we are looking at getting some outdoor ranges set up. If you know someone in the area of Omaha that has land and would be willing to work with us on setting up a range, please direct them to us. If you've got ideas for when we get the range, keep in mind at this point everything is on our own dime, so can't be real expensive, but we're willing to go out and do some fun stuff.
Oh yeah.
Let us know. But really, that's all we got for today.
And another beautiful thing here.
Nothing to clean.
Yep. Nothing to clean.
That's 2 in a row, I think.
I know. I like that.
All right.
One of us is going to get unlucky and clean
Yeah.
the gun, though.
I know.
All right.
And it's probably going to be after range day.
Yep. So make sure you're always shooting straight and be safe.
Have a good one, everyone.